Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at Just Shavu Ministries with Yarah. I thank you again for being here. If you like the content that we have on our channel, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them in the comment section down below. Also, please share with any youth that is interested in studying the Word of Elohim and its content and its truth and its foundation. With that being said, let's get started with this week's Torah portion. So, this week's Torah portion is Miketz, right? And Miketz is in the beginning of an era, right? So here we're starting to understand and get to know the story of Joseph, right? Joseph was sold by his brothers and his family, right? He was the chosen one, right, by his father, right? His brothers didn't live according to his father and didn't live according to Elohim's purpose. And so each of them got passed down, right? And Joseph was the one that was supposed to inherit, right? He had the robe of many colors, or the robe of honor, right? Or justice and of authority. And so they were envious of Joseph because Joseph was doing the right thing. And so Joseph was gifted with interpreting dreams and having dreams. And so Joseph is sold by his brothers in jealousy, right? And then sold to the Ishmaelites, and from the Ishmaelites he was sold to the Egyptians. And so Joseph gets to Egypt, and he's at the house of Potiphar, which is the officer of Pharaoh, right? And so Joseph gets there, and he becomes the second to the officer of Pharaoh, right? So he was in control of Potiphar's house, right? And so we see that in his control, right? Joseph is being honored and watched over by Elohim and Elohim's spirit, because Joseph is living on a righteous and just life, right? Honoring Elohim in Egypt, in bondage, right? And so Egypt was Joseph's home for this time. And so Joseph did not complain. He lived and honored Elohim in everything he did and everything he thought and acted on, right? And so when Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, he says, I am not going to dishonor Elohim, right, after everything that I have gone through and what he has given me, right? And so here, then she lies on Joseph, and he's put in prison. And so in prison, he becomes second in command to the officer in prison. Right, he's blessed by Elohim and everything that he's been doing because he's honoring Elohim. He's living according to what Elohim is expecting of him, which is honor, justice, and righteousness. Right, he's being dealt unjustly, but he hasn't given up on Elohim and on his character and on what he has learned from his father. And so here he interprets the baker's dream and the cupbearer's dream, right? And so the baker's dream is basically saying that he will die, right? And the cupbearer's dream is that he will go back to his position and he will be right next to the Pharaoh, right? And so Joseph tells the cupbearer, don't forget me, right? And so this is where we're at, right? We are here, right, in chapter 41. We're here in chapter 41, right? And so we're going to start with the reading. But before we start with the reading, we're going to do the Torah blessing. It says, Blessed are you, Adonai, King Elohim, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has ordered us to study the words of your Torah. Please, Adonai, that the words of your Torah are pleasant to our mouth and to the house of Israel, to the mouth of our children and to the mouth of the children of our children, the house of Israel, that we are all knowers of your name and students of your Torah for its essence. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches the Torah to his people Israel. Blessed are you, Adonai, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all the peoples and has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. So, we start chapter 41. It says, After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing in the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump. They fed in reeds, and behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, and came up out of the Nile after them, and stood up by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive plump cows. And the Pharaoh awoke and fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plumb and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plumbed full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, there was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled. He sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none who interpreted them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offense today, when Pharaoh was angry with his servant and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. We dreamt on the same night, and he and I each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving us an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted us, so it came about. And I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and there's no one who can interpret it. I have heard it is said that when you hear dreams, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not me. Elohim will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Right? So now we're seeing Joseph's character, right? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream I was standing in the bank of the Nile. The 7 cows, plump and attractive, and came up out of the Nile and fed in the grass. 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the thin and ugly cows ate up the first 7 plump cows, but when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as the beginning. Then I awoke, and I also saw in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good, and 7 ears withered and blackened by the east wind, sprouted after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears, and I told it to the magicians, but there was no one that could explain it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, and the dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after the 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blackened by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. And it is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty through the land of Egypt, but after them there will be a rise in 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and their plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by Elohim, and Elohim will surely bring it about. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select and discerning a wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers of the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and stored up grain under authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be reserved for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so the land may not perish throughout the famine. So here Joseph is called to Pharaoh's house, right? Joseph is called to interpret Pharaoh's dream, and so the magicians are not able to do this, so they call Joseph, right? The cupbearer remembers Joseph, right? And so Joseph tells Pharaoh, I will not give you an answer from myself, I'll give you an answer from Elohim, right? So we're seeing Joseph's character. Now, we're going to read a little information from the Sunday Van, right? Right, so verse 1 says, the king's dream is always a special import, and his customarily employed dream specialist to interpret the dream and offer advice as to how to proceed. It was of a particular importance if a dream was repeated, and the number of examples are shown from the literature. Just as Pharaoh has a double dream here, Gudea, king of Lagash, which is another story in the ancient Near East, around 2000 BCE, had a double dream concerning the building of a temple. In the Mari letter, which is another one, the king is warned twice and given to someone else on a consecutive night that he should not rebuild a temple in Terka. In the Gilgamesh epic, which is another ancient Near Eastern story, at the end of the tablet, which is tablet 1, Gilgamesh has a double dream about his upcoming encounter with Enkidu. In the tablet number 4, he has a sequence of 5 dreams concerning the upcoming encounter with the guardian Huwawa. In the Babylonian poem of the righteous sufferer, right, the sufferer receives 3 dreams informing him that he has been cleansed from his offense. In these examples, multiple dreams given warning. And Mari informs of concerning the future is Gilgamesh and offer of absolution in the sufferer, right? Pharaoh's dream contains the first 2 of these, right? And so magicians and wise men, magicians, which are called Khartumim, refer to the specialists centered in the house of life, which is a place where the dream interpretation manuals were stored and studied. These terms is constructed from the Egyptian title referring to chief lector priest. This means this same term is used in late literature to describe the famous Egyptian architect from the 3rd dynasty, Imhotep, who was also high priest of Heliopolis, a still and Sechel island, proportioning to be a decree by King Dehosir, but is actually a product of Ptolemaic period, 2nd century BCE, is where the term is applied to Imhotep. Another famous Egyptian lector priest was the prophet Neferti, who rehearses the troubled times of the first intermediate period at the end of the 3rd millennium BCE. Lector priests were those who recited spells and rituals. They were experts in literature of the rituals and were considered to have access to mysteries. They played a major role in the tales of King Khufu and the magicians, a cycle of 5 stories where they perform miracles and can see the future. Here we see the magicians. The magicians are called to help Pharaoh, right? They're supposed to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And so they will go to the house of light where they have the interpreter's book and they will interpret the dreams from there, right? They did not believe that the God would speak directly to them. They believed that the God would speak in the dream and then they will go into the books and find the answer that the God was trying to give them. Okay? And so this is why Joseph's story is so different, because Joseph is answered directly, right? Joseph says, I will not give you an answer from myself, I'll give you an answer from Elohim. And so Pharaoh gets from Joseph is that Elohim is telling you this, not only through the dream, but through me. I don't need the literature from the house of light, because I have the true light of the world, which is Elohim, which is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, right? And so Joseph explains the 7 years of famine, right? So the 7 years of famine inscription on Sechel Island mentioned above is of interest also because the setting is 7 years of famine, right? The king consults Imhotep, who after research advises the king that the famine can be ended by acknowledging the role of Kuhunu, whose temple was at Elephanite, in controlling the inundation of the Nile. The only parallel here is the existence of the 7 years of famine, right? Nothing else shows similarity to Joseph's story. There's no reason to think of these 2 pieces, right, as being related or referring to the same event. It only shows that the extent of famines were known in Egypt, right? So we see that Joseph interprets a dream and he says, you need to establish somebody in authority that is able to control this and help you in these 7 years of plentiful years and the 7 years of famine that are coming to the land, right? And put it under Pharaoh's authority. That way the people know that you have established this, right? And they have to follow it, okay? And so we're going to keep reading. So it says, verse 37, this proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this, in whom is the spirit of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since Elohim has shown you all these, there is none of this discerning and wise as you are, you shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne I will be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Right? So this is interesting and beautiful because we see that Joseph hasn't negotiated who he is. Joseph hasn't dishonored Elohim, right? Joseph has gone through tough times and has struggled, but he has stayed truthful to Elohim over everything, and Elohim has honored him and has restored his honor, right? Always, because he has honored Elohim, right? So Joseph became second in command to the officer of Pharaoh. Then he's thrown in jail. He becomes second in command to the officer in jail. And then, not only that, but now he's second in command to Pharaoh, and he's over all of Egypt. Because he honored Elohim above everything. Beautiful. Okay, let's keep reading. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot, and they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one shall lift up a hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Sephaneah Paneah. And he gave him in marriage to Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. So Joseph went over the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt during the 7 years which he occurred in Egypt, and put the food in the cities. And he put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called their name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, Elohim has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second was called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come. And Joseph had said, there was famine in all the land, but in all the lands of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph. What he says to you, do. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, other earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. Right? So now Joseph is in control, right? He's second in command to Pharaoh. He's controlling the operation, right? He is responsible for feeding the world, right? And so he has 2 sons, right? Manasseh and Ephraim, right? One he names him because Elohim made him forget his affliction in his father's house. And the second one is because Elohim has protected him, has lifted him up in his affliction, right? Joseph is the first time that he shows a type of pain and remorse when he names his sons, right? He forgets his father's house, and he acknowledges that Elohim has, kept him through his affliction. Well, Joseph has been blessed. Joseph is in the land, right? But Joseph now will be tested, right? The first dreams that Joseph had of his brothers bowing down to him, right, wasn't so much a blessing. It was more of a test. And why do I say that? Because right now, Joseph has gone through all the hardship because his brothers sold him and were envious of him. And now that Elohim has honored him, he has put him in power, and has restored his strength, given him a family, he will encounter those that did him wrong, which are his family. And he has the power to honor Elohim or to show or hold a grudge, right? It's hard when people do something wrong to you and Elohim calls you to forgive them. Joseph is going to be tested now, because when he sees his brothers here in struggle and hunger, he will be put in a position where he has to either forget the past or act on what was done to him, right? Revenge. All right, so let's see what Joseph does. Before we go to Joseph, let's read this. Pharaoh's initial appointment gives Joseph authority in the place based on recognition of the spirit of Elohim in Joseph. The combination of insight indicated by the dream interpretation and wisdom indicated by the prospered strategy was sufficient to conclude that Joseph enjoyed divine favor, a good reason to keep him close to the throne, right? In Egyptian documents, the administrative second in command over Egypt is the vizier, known as the overseer of the royal estates. Joseph's new role, however, may not be quite as lofty as that. There are other posts that can make the claim of being second in command in the area of the responsibility. This is similar to a company today that has a president and CEO and a staff of vice presidents. Vice president of production, vice president of marketing, vice president of legal, etc. Each of these individuals could legitimately claim to be second in command in his own or her particular area, to be set in charge of the entire company in the area of his or her jurisdiction. Similarly, numerous Egyptian nobles could serve in office, nobles could serve in office and bear titles that identify them as second only to Pharaoh. Such titles include great favor of the Lord of the two lands and foremost among his courtiers. One of the most appropriate known titles that describes Joseph's duty is overseer of the granaries of Upper and Lower Egypt. It is not unusual to find accounts of officials who were elevated from lowly status to high positions of authority. Right? Joseph is given authority that is not regional or just in one city. The signet ring allows him to make decisions and authorize them in the name of Pharaoh. The clothing and jewelry and transportation all designate his high station. He is renamed, and his marriage into priestly family give him a new identity as an Egyptian noble. The city of On, reflecting Egyptian Lunu or Iunu, is later known as the Heliopolis and is one of the most revered ancient cities along the Memphis and the Thebes. It is located just northern of Cairo at the base of the delta. Joseph is gonna be tested now, right? We're gonna see in chapter 42. Joseph will be tested, and we will see. When Jacob learned that there was a grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain and sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers were down to buy grain in Egypt, but Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamt of them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." He said to them, "No, it's the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested, by the life of Pharaoh. You shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is a truth in you, or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. And on the third day Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear Elohim. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry a grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And then they said to one another, "In truth, we're guilty in concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, we did not listen. This is why this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there come a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept. And he turned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before his eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and replace every man's money in his sack, and to give them provision for the journey. This was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey folder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack, and he said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here is the mouth of my sack." At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that Elohim has done to us?" When they came up to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to him, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us, and took us to the spies of the land. But we said to him, we're honest men. We have never been spies. We're 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is more, and the youngest is in this day with our father in the land of Canaan." And the man of the Lord of the land said to us, "By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your household, and go your way. Bring your honest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. And I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land." As they emptied the sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in the sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob said to them, "You have bereaved me from my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now they will take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Then Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you will bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the Sheol. Now, the famine was severe in the land. And when they had eaten the grain that they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, go again and buy us a little food. But Judah said to him, the man solemnly warned us, saying, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. Israel said, why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother? They replied, the man questioned us carefully about ourselves and our kindred, saying, is your father still alive? You have another brother. What we told him was an answer to those questions. Could we in any way know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said to Israel, his father, send the boy with me, and I will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be a pledge of safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we will now have returned twice. Then their father Israel said to them, if it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bags and carry a present down to the man. A little balm and a little honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take double of the money with you. Carry back with you the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was oversight. Take also your brother and arise. Go again to the man, and may Elohim Almighty grant you mercy before the man. May he send back your brother Benjamin. And as for me, if I'm bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So the man took his present, and they took double of the money with them. And Benjamin, they arose and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon. The man did as Joseph told him, and brought the man to the house of Joseph. And the men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house. And they said, it is because of the money which was replaced in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that he may assault us and fall upon us to make us servants and seize our donkeys. So they went up to the steward of Joseph's house and spoke with him in the door of the house and said, O my lord, we came down the first time to buy food. And when we came to the lodging place, we opened our sacks, and there was each man's money in the mouth of the sack, and our money in full weight. So we have brought it again with us, and we have brought other money down with us to buy food. We do not know who put the money in our sacks. He replied, peace to you, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your fathers have put treasures in your sacks for you. I received your money. Then he brought Simeon out to them. And when the man had brought the men into Joseph's house and given them water, they had washed their feet. And when he had given their donkeys fodder, they prepared the presents for Joseph's coming at noon. For they heard that they should eat bread there. When Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present that they had with them, and bowed down to him and to the ground. And he inquired about their welfare and said, is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? They said, your servant our father is well. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his father Benjamin and his brother Benjamin, and his mother's son, and said, Is this your youngest brother of whom you have spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brothers, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out. And controlling himself, he said, Serve the food. They served him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. And they set before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in amazement. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. Then he commanded the stewards of his house, Fill the men's sacks with food, as such they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sacks. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did as Joseph told him. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with the donkeys, and they had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his stewards, Up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, as you to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that my Lord drinks, and by these that he practices divination? You have done evil in doing this. When he overtook them, he spoke to them these words. They said to him, Why does my Lord speak such words of these? Far be it from your servants to do such thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouth of our sacks, we brought it back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die. And we also will be my Lord's servants. And he said, Let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest shall be innocent. Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack, and he searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there, and he fell before him to the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination? And Yehudah said, What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak, or how can we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the guilt of our servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found. But he said, Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found, I shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father. Then Judah went up to him and said, O my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my Lord, We have a father, an old man, a younger brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. We said to my Lord, The boy cannot leave his father, for it shall leave his father will die. Then you said to your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again. When we went back to your servants, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And when our father said, Go again, buy us little food. We said we cannot go down if your youngest brother goes down with us. Then we will go down, for we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me, and I said, surely he has been torn to pieces, and I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol. Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, then as his life is found or bound in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boys as a servant to my lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that will find my father. So, what can we learn from Joseph? Joseph, after being blessed and being put in power, right, by Elohim, right? Joseph has maintained himself, has honored Elohim in everything he has done, and Elohim has prospered Joseph because Joseph has done the right thing. Joseph, after being sold by his brothers, being wrongfully accused, he has decided to honor Elohim in everything he did, right? The Torah says that Elohim was with him and that he prospered him in everything because he was just and righteous and he did what he was supposed to do in the world, right? And so after being put second in command to Pharaoh, right, in that moment, he was basically the ruler of the world, especially during the famine, right? Joseph is tested by the reassurance of his brothers, right? And they reappear to him in his moment of power, and his dream that he had in the beginning of his brothers bowing down to him comes to fruition because he's in power. But now the dream is not so much a prophecy of his authority, is more of, yes, you're in a position of power, but are you going to judge justly your brothers even though they didn't do it to you, right? Elohim honored Joseph in everything he did. And so Joseph's responsibility was to honor his brothers. But Joseph had not let go of his anger and frustration with his family, right? So he had to mature completely. So Joseph teaches us that even though Elohim prospers us, sometimes we hold on to things that we shouldn't, that we need to let go and forgive others. So let's make sure we forgive and honor Elohim in everything we do. Have a good week. Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.